We grind on a daily, daily. Bringing light to this world when it's raining. If you got any doubt, go ahead and wait and see. Only option is to win when you with the ace.
What is going on, y'all? Hey, here we are. Season 2, episode 4. We rolling again. I mean, sheesh. You know what I'm saying? Every week we bring y'all new content. First week we brought y'all 2 episodes, technically, right? So now we finally all the way up to episode 4. Okay. This week we're going to talk about the business world and how we're going to talk about how being in that sports field, what that side of you know, that media looks like, right? So quick couple notes before we get there. Y'all know we got to talk about the climber of the week. Okay. Y'all also know we got to talk about, you know, the support that we've been getting. So special thanks to, first of all, 100 Black Men of Akron. You know, Coach Irby, anybody that knows the Firestone community, Coach Irby's been helping us out a lot getting this thing started. So we want to give a special thanks to that. Secondly, climber of the week, Solo Dolo Kicks, Anthony Brown. Y'all know that's an in-house climber of the week. AB is on a climb. That boy is working his tail off every single day to get some sneakers. So, guys, right now as I'm talking, if you're watching on YouTube, right now you're seeing AB's social media. Check him out, Solo Dolo Kicks, okay? If you need sneakers, he got literally everything. He is literally the plug for any type of shoe that you want. Go through him because this guy is working his tail off. He's passionate about it. He's going to make sure you got good quality too. So that's just our climber of the week. Definitely show love. Go on there, hit him with a couple likes, give him a follow. He definitely needs it and he could use it.
Definitely.
As we transition into our special guest, I'll pass the mic to my boy Jovan, okay? Because I'm getting introduced as well. Okay, so Jovan,
absolutely,
it's all yours, man.
Yes, so we got the wonderful Brooklyn Vaughan. I personally know you as a Temple alum, and you covered football, of course, for Temple. I believe you're a cheerleader too, right?
Yeah, I was. Brief stint.
Yes,
yes, that happened.
Yes, that's awesome. And I remember you were one of the first people to interview me after I made the Chiefs, I believe, or it was the Browns, and one of the best interviews. And I'm so happy to have you on here. Very excited for this interview. Just give the audience a brief introduction to who you are.
Sure. Yeah. Well, Jovan, long time no see. I'm glad we're back. Yeah. Right. Some things never changed, but yeah. So we knew each other from Temple. I did go to Temple University. I studied journalism there, and I also minored in sport management. And we'll get into my whole journey of my career, but basically, you know, during my time at Temple, I got into sports media and I realized that this is my biggest love in life. 2 of my biggest passions combined, and I just kind of got after it. And now I'm a production assistant at ESPN. So I live up here in Bristol, Connecticut, or around the Bristol area. Big difference from Philly. I'm Philly born and raised, Delaware County raised. So I've been there for 23 years of life. And now I'm, you know, in this new chapter. And I can't wait to talk to you guys about it and everything that's gone into this so far.
Yeah, that's awesome. there's a lot of people growing up, especially me too, like who wanted to think I could be a broadcaster or something like that, but never pursued it. What made you get into the sports media?
So it's kind of interesting because I've always known that, you know, my biggest passion was always video production. Kind of in high school, it was something I always did. I did the morning announcements. And then, like you had mentioned too, I was a cheerleader my whole entire life. And I was always around sports. My dad was a coach. My brothers played sports. They played, you know, all sports, all of them. But I kind of got to that point in my sophomore year at Temple when I had the opportunity to join an extracurricular, you know, which was also kind of offered. It's not just an extracurricular. It was like a full-time job in addition to being a student, right? Joining Al Sports Update and hopping on the Temple football beat. And stepping away from cheerleading and making that decision to kind of go all in on pursuing this career, it was really hard because it's something that I loved and I had to walk away from. But I knew the benefits of spending my game days now in the press box and covering, you know, the team at that time. That was something that I needed to do. So once I started covering Temple football, I got really into all varsity sports at Temple. And I never looked back. And I never really knew that I could make a career for myself out of this. And I always knew I loved writing and I loved, again, video and just really coming to the realization that I could combine my 2 loves and make a living out of it. You know, that was a beautiful day and I've never looked back. So yeah, that's been the journey through college and the realization and all of that. And I got to senior year, and obviously COVID was a huge roadblock that nobody could have ever prepared for. And I actually opted to take another semester at school, which wasn't easy. And it made me kind of really buckle up and say, once this is all over, I'm still full speed ahead chasing this. And that extra semester actually bought me the time to be able to come across this opportunity at ESPN. So I'm a big believer in timing is everything, and trusting in that timing. And no matter how difficult it may be to make a decision at times, you have to just trust in that concept that there's a reason for where you're at and that timing. And for me, that timing was coming across this opportunity.
I love that. I love that, and I agree. In my own personal journey, I was an athlete as well. I played at the University of Toledo for 7 years. So, I graduated high school with Joe Vaughan in 2015. So, 2019 we redshirted our freshman year. 2019 was both our senior years, and I ended up tearing my knee. I was out for the whole season. I messed it up a week before camp, getting some extra work in. So it was in July. And, I was out my entire season. So, I was a firm believer of the same thing, and I still am, that everything happens for a reason. It's all about timing, right? It's not always your timing. Sometimes somebody up above is watching us, giving us that timing, right? So I'm right with you, absolutely. For me, just to give you a rundown on me, I finished that, went through that rehab. COVID hit for me too, gave me an extra year of eligibility. So I ended up doing 7 years of college football. And I was ready. I was like, Joe, all the mistakes you made, training for the NFL, I'm learning, I'm taking notes, So now I'm ready. So I'm not going to make the same mistakes as you. But then my knee came back to bite me. So everybody in my corner, they wanted me to keep fighting. But I was like, it's not that I gave up. I was just like, my knee is done. It's begging me to give up. So, I moved on. And to be honest with you, my job that I work right now as a school counselor and also doing this AC stuff, I don't know. It's a whole different type of feeling, and it wouldn't be there if I was still chasing the NFL. So, I completely agree with you. I love that. I love that a lot. Now, when you said the morning announcements, so when I interned for my counseling job up in Toledo, they did morning announcements. Firestone High School back in Akron, where Jovan and I went, we did not do morning announcements. But how could a kid, that is possibly trying to be in your shoes one day, how could they really step in to that morning announcements if their school offers it? Like, what's some tips for them to like take it a little bit more serious than just, oh, I just want to be on TV. Like, I want to be that cool person. Like, if you got any words for them, that'd be great.
Well, I think it kind of comes from the fact that there's a feeling behind it. It's not so much, if you do something and you love it. When you play football, you love it, and you can chase that career. When you find something that you're passionate about, like for me, it was being in front of the camera, and it was telling other people's stories and listening to people and meeting new people and helping to tell their stories. I think you have to kind of, at a certain point, drown out all of the outside noise when anybody kind of says like, oh, for me, it was always, that's such a hard career to get into. There's not a lot of opportunities there, oh, good luck. And it was kind of like almost condescending at times. Once you can drown out those noises, and my tip to that is just to lean in extra hard to the feeling of that love that you have and that passion that you have for what you want to do. Once you can lean into that, then it drowns out itself, and then it's just kind of full speed ahead. And for me, I think it's just a matter of turning over the rocks that you never thought to turn over in the first place. And we'll probably talk a little bit more about this too, in giving advice and receiving advice. But like my biggest piece of advice kind of is just, there's no linear path, and there's no linear path to anything you want to do in life. Regardless, maybe if you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, I can't help you get around that one, right? You got to go through the school. You have to do, what you're kind of regulated to do in terms of pursuing those dreams. But in terms of chasing what you want to do, if you have a dream job, if you find something that you lean into and you kind of, you might think that it's really difficult to do just because everybody else who's done it before you has gone one certain way. There's no linear path. There really isn't. And that's something that I've learned, and that's something that I carry with me every day in this industry, because I'm just starting. And it's hard to believe that I'm just starting. I'm at ESPN. I'm at the worldwide leader in what I love to do. But for me, I'm just starting. And that entire concept of this is not a linear path, that just still rings true to me every single day. So I think that's my biggest piece of advice in terms of that.
Yeah.
Timestamp.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Timestamp that, because
Right there.
that's a great lesson. I mean, it really is. I asked you to give advice, and you gave probably the most valuable advice, I think, in my opinion, for that question, and only because, that's for just about any career, like you said, in anything in life. It's like there's too many people out here when you say give advice, what they say is, oh, you got to make sure you do this. Okay, look, you're not making it if you don't do this. Like, it's so all over the place. Everybody's story is completely different. We can look at people and use them as a model, but that doesn't mean we have to do exactly what they did. That also doesn't mean that we, have to change completely everything. So, just for anybody listening or watching, like she did say, is it's not linear, right? And, it may not always be the same. Don't go out your way to change things, right? If some things aren't broke, right, don't fix it. But at the same time, don't feel pressured or, feel like you have to go do exactly what you saw the person ahead of you do, right? Your story may be completely different and you'll still make it to the end of the destination. It's just a little bit different on the map, okay? So I love that.
Yep.
Yeah. And Brooklyn, I mean, for anybody listening, the one thing about Brooklyn, she has so much faith in herself and committed to what she's doing. She don't care what the route is, she's going to get to it. So speaking of that, how did you get to ESPN?
So it's funny that you say that, because I was always kind of set on being a reporter and anchoring, and those are the things that I really invested my time in at Temple. And I'd be lying if I said that wasn't still the goal long term. But for now, I'm in this position where I'm like blessed to do the things I do day in, day out. And we can talk more about exactly what I do here at ESPN. But I had stumbled, and it was always for me like the end goal. I've always had this issue of like looking way far ahead in the future and getting so caught up in that instead of just kind of embracing where I was at now. So obviously that end goal was always ESPN. And coming out of college, I wanted to go like big or go home. Like I wasn't going to, settle for what everybody else around me told me to do and kind of go like the clear-cut direction of going on air. Instead, I said, let me, take a risk here. And this step into my role at ESPN right now, granted, it's not the reporting and the anchoring that I'm doing, but it's not, I'm not off-roading right now, right? It's just a little detour and it's not linear. It's just a different route. And I'm not sure, there's been people who have done it before and they've pursued this kind of route that I have, but I don't know. It feels different. It feels different this time around. So I had seen this posting for ESPN years ago, and it's a program that I'm in called the Next program. And their entire purpose is to kind of just generate that next generation of talent at ESPN, and in terms of producers, graphics, editors. So I've always had a bookmark. And like I said, that COVID thing, it was so frustrating for me to go on every day and look for internships and look for different opportunities. And it was just wiped because obviously the sports media industry was pretty, they were hit pretty hard with all of this COVID stuff. So I always had this, bookmarked, and I knew that I would send in an application, and because I had nothing to lose out of that, right? There's nothing that I could have lost. And I was like, let me just apply. And the more and more into the interview process I got, and the more and more I learned about what the things I would be doing here, the more and more I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do for now. This is what's going to fulfill me for now. It's going to help me become better for whenever I am ready to continue pursuing that end goal way down the line.
Yeah, you setting it up. I love it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Can you briefly touch on what you do on your day-to-day at ESPN while you're on it?
Yeah, I love what I do. I love what I do. The first 7 months I was here, I was in the features unit at ESPN, which was so special. And I got to do crazy things, things I could have never imagined that I'd be doing in my first 3 months. Nevertheless, this entire stretch of time that I've had, I did go on a film study with Doris Burke and Donovan Mitchell. And Then I was able to produce the NBA draft features. So I traveled out to the combine and I was able to be a part of that entire process. So right now I actually just transitioned out of the features unit, and I'm going to be working for the NFL content this coming season. So I'm going to be producing a bunch of elements for Monday Night Countdown, Sunday Night Countdown, which is just so cool because obviously that is like, we all grew up watching it. So now that I get to, work on different elements for these shows, it's pretty amazing. So yeah, so I'm a production assistant. That's my title. And basically what it means is that you get to learn from so many different people and parts of the company. But for me so far, again, that's been features. And then it's also been now transitioning into the NFL Countdown team. So pretty amazing stuff. Pretty cool stuff is going on over here.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I can't even lie. I'm excited for you. Very excited for you.
Facts.
Yeah.
And you mentioned a legend in Doris Burke. Like she's not that's a name drop, right?
Oh,
like,
that's a major name drop. Yeah. And you know what? She off camera is Doris Burke like times 10. Like just such a genuine soul and so helpful to just be able to watch her do what she does in her element. And she's so talented, and we'll talk more about like role models, but like major role model, major name drop right there.
Yeah, that's so
awesome.
cool.
Now, where are you originally from? Because I don't know if I might have missed that, but where are you originally from?
So I was born and raised in Delaware County, so like 25 minutes outside of Philly. And then obviously I went to school at Temple for 5 years. So I literally have not left the Philadelphia area from like my 23 years of life. So like coming up to Connecticut, like it's so foreign to me still, but it's starting to grow on me. But it's been a major adjustment. Yeah. That's
kind of why I asked. I was just curious, even that transition, for all of us, we all pretty young, just moving and stuff. It's just, I was just curious on your perspective on that, and if that was a part of your journey right now.
Yeah, it's hard, it's something, and people actually, that's probably the first thing that sticks out to people when they meet me here is like, where is that accent from? Like, where did you come from? Well, you sound insane. Like, we've never heard anybody talk like this in our life, and it's also being the one of very few obnoxious Philadelphia sports fans in the room at all time, which is also pretty, it's interesting for sure. But that mentality of being from Philadelphia and going to Temple, and I know Jovan knows about the Temple Tough mantra, it couldn't be more true, and it sticks with you. It's something that you embody once you go through it, and it just carries with me day in and day out. And I truly mean that. Even, 7 months up here, and I still, it's every day is a challenge, right? When you're in this new place, when you're in Connecticut, especially. I'm telling you right now, there's not a lot to do in Connecticut, but I'm finding things to do. I think the relocation part of it it's also been a big challenge, but it's been one that so far has gone pretty well.
Connecticut.
And for those that don't know,
Connecticut sound like a lot of axe throwing or something. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God, that's so funny you say that. I live like 5 minutes down the road from an axe throwing facility. Like that's like, and I still haven't even been. I haven't even been. It's so funny. It's like the same restaurants, the same bars over and over again with the same friends. But I like it up here. I really do. I'm gonna come off such a hard-o and be like, oh, Connecticut. Like it really is kind of nice here.
Yeah, I believe it.
I believe it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you mentioned Temple Tough, which is all about perseverance and grit.
Absolutely.
Right. So the first thing that I thought of when I think about women in sports, sadly, one of the moments is the Cam Newton thing about, football and football. And just being a woman in sports and understanding as men, we have the privilege of not having to deal with that. So I want to know if you being a woman in sports, do you have to deal with, that like a pressure of like being over prepared or feeling the pressure of not belonging in the same room as certain other individuals?
Yeah. And I will say that, yes, I always feel like I need to over prepare. And that is not necessarily just because I know that I am a woman in the room, and I'm probably one of few at that. I think it's just kind of my mentality and how I approach a lot of different things in life is just being over prepared. So I guess it kind of works out, but the pressure's there. It really is. And as much as the landscape of this industry is changing, For every step forward we take, sometimes it feels like we take two back. And that's just in the current events. And, you see the headlines of how women in the sports media industry get treated unfairly. But at the same time now, I feel more encouraged than discouraged, like more encouraged and more excited now than ever to pursue this industry, because I know that that landscape is changing, and I know that it's more accepted, and it's more widely seen now. So to a point, yeah, there have been times where I just kind of look around and I'm like, a lot of dudes in this room, right? But at the same time, I've also been very lucky in that the guys that I work with every day have gone out of their way to make sure that I am comfortable in my work environment. And I know that's not the case for every woman who works in this industry, but I've been very lucky, whether it was my time at Temple, whether it is my time at ESPN. I am surrounded by men who do nothing but lift me up. And I'm thankful for that. And I think that is going to change a lot of the way that women are perceived. It already has kind of changed. And I think it's just from here, it's only going to get better.
Yep. Hopefully, absolutely. That's exactly what we want. Something that came to mind when you were saying all of that, I was just thinking about ESPN as a whole. And, I don't watch as much now. I'd be so busy. But, when I used to watch, I believe it was First Take with like Molly. I just the way she would get kind of talked over sometimes, or, even just some of the comments on Twitter, they like, yo, like, why is Molly even on here? It's like, maybe, I don't know if it's my counselor in me or maybe it's just me, but like, I just always have felt for her, just like, why does she even have to prove something, right? She got the job. She's qualified, right? She's obviously the right role for this position. I don't know why there's always that extra couple steps that women have to take, especially in a job field like this. And it's just, I'm glad you were able to speak to that, because yeah, like you said, hopefully, things can get a little bit more level,
I think with Molly's name too, and then that's something that I also have thought about a lot recently, is like internally, you think of the women that I'm surrounded by here, like Mina Kimes, Laura Rutledge, Diana Rossini, Brooke Pryor, Jenna Lane, and like what I rattle those names off as women that I look up to just here alone. The thing that stands out the most to me about all of them and why they are so good at what they do is because they let their personalities shine through in every aspect of the work that they do. And that to me sets them apart from everybody. And that's something that I like take upon myself. Like if you were to ask me if there's like a role model, or if there's somebody that I aspire to be, no, it's I want to find it in myself to be as comfortable as they are and let my personality shine through and radiate. And I think I've done that so far. And that's how I really have been successful in the different things that I've been able to achieve, is because I kind of have that mindset of being like unapologetically myself. And all of those women and all the women who have come before me, that's it. Like they've gotten to that level of being so comfortable with themselves and so happy to just kind of let that radiate through the work that they do. And I think that just sets them beyond everyone else.
I got a question real quick. Is it this obviously has been a hard journey, or at least, a dedicated and a type journey that takes a lot of commitment, right? I'm sure your study, when you got to study different teams, different players, I'm sure it takes a lot of time. Has there ever been a time in all your years, let's even look all the way back to high school, has there ever been a time where you were like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore?
Yeah, there's been a couple. I think the worst of it was coming out of college, and you look ahead and you're so surrounded by so much support in your time while you're being educated with your professors, your teachers, whether this is high school, and to any of the younger population that's listening to this, don't take that support system for granted. Lean on them and lean on them heavily, because when you get to a point of entering the real world, to me, it seemed so intimidating and so scary, and knowing that there were all of these routes that I could pursue. And it just seemed like at the time there was just nothing that I really could cling to and say, this is exactly what I was going to do. And I think that was the uncertainty of working in this industry. So was there a time where I didn't think I could do this, or I was discouraged? Absolutely. But it was never because of a situation that I was in doing the work that I love. It's never come out of me being in the field or being on the sidelines or being in the press box or being in the presser conference rooms. It's always been when I've kind of removed myself from that situation and I have to look forward and I have to say, oh my God, do I really want to do this? And at the end of the day, those answers come to you, like I said, when you turn over the rocks that you never think to turn over and you look down the hallway that you never think you should look down because maybe the lights are off. Turn the lights on, look down the hallway. Look for what may not be right in front of your face. But in terms of actual experiences where I didn't want to do this anymore, it's never been, a day in my life at work. And I think that says a lot about, that speaks volumes to, I know that I'm doing what I love and what I'm meant to do. So yeah, so kind of maybe sort of, there's been a lot of discouragement, but it has never been while I'm doing what I love to do. And that's my answer to myself and to you as well, which is pretty cool to kind of, put that into words. Because now that just clicked in my head too. I'm like, yeah, now that I think about it, like,
that's great.
It's only when I'm like by myself and I'm really starting to think about all this scary, all the doom and gloom that is ahead, but never in the present.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Do you have anybody that you currently work with that you currently lean on for support and guidance?
Yeah, and I'm at ESPN. I'm at the worldwide leader, and I'm surrounded by the best of the best. And when I was in that room with features for the first 7 months that I was here, the group of producers in that room, you could go to any of them and you can bounce an idea off of them, or you could sit back and listen to them in meetings, and we would have collaboration meetings where all of us would kind of share our thoughts on one common, concept. You're surrounded by the best of the best. And I luckily was able to soak in a whole lot from them. So I would have to say, like, if there are any people, that entire room was such a huge support system to me. My cohort that I came into the next program with, my peers who are working on different types of shows, on different types of schedules, doing completely different things that I'm doing day in and day out. I lean on them heavily. And then, of course, the Temple connection reigns so strongly here. There's so many Temple alum here. And I say so many, but like you can count them on two hands, which is really, really cool because not a lot of people who are just starting at ESPN can say that. But two that come to mind, especially, is Kevin Nagandi and Max McGee. And they, because I've reached out to them early on and expressed my goals long-term, and they have like totally taken me under their wing. They've embodied like what it means to be a mentor. And I have so much respect for the two of them because they truly, like, if I've ever needed to pick me up, I look to any of those people, and they're always there.
Yeah. Shout out Kevin Nagandi too. Another Temple
Shout out Kevin Nagandi.
Yeah, he's the best.
He's
the best.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing I'm hearing is a lot about ESPN is, kind of very protective of their staff and supports their staff. And one of the questions I had was about the treatment of women, but it sounds like it's coming along in a positive direction. Now, a question I do have is, do you feel like women are playing more of a significant role in sports with the shift that, ESPN, we got women hosting NBA Today, Mariah Taylor, of course, NBA Finals, stuff like that. What's your thoughts on that piece? Yeah,
no, I think absolutely. There's such a prominence now in women in this industry, and especially being supported by, ESPN and all of those big platform shows. I think I feel it every day, and ESPN is full of women. It's not like I'm the only one up here who walks on campus and I'm like, where are the girls at? Like, where, again, a whole lot of dudes here. I'm like way out on an island. Like, there are women everywhere. And I think ESPN has done such a good job in setting that precedent and in giving these opportunities to women and fostering like a company culture and allowing us to grow and be the best that we can be in everything that we do. So yeah, I feel that every day in and day out. Like I was talking about that room of like feature producers that I was in, like the women in that room too have blown my mind with the creativity and the support that they've been able to provide. Like, hell yeah, like absolutely. I feel it every single day.
Yeah. I feel like the world, and even it's the ESPN. We can even just talk to ESPN or, just the sports world. I feel like we're transitioning, right? Year after year from, Yeah, guys, we have to have a female or a woman in this
Yeah.
room, right, guys? We got to like no, like we need more. Like we need as many as we
Right.
can. Like or
Yeah.
oh yeah, let we want one. Like let's get a woman in here. Make sure she looks good, right? To like no, like we need as many women as we can so we can have a diverse and inclusive environment because that way we can collaborate a little bit better. So I think we're going from like have to like transition into the need, and I think that's important too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I said. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to pursue this. Whether I do pursue going back on air ever down the line, or whether, I pursue any other part of this industry, like I am surrounded by greatness in these women, and that's something that I'm like very, very thankful for. And I'm excited to keep my own train moving because they've been able to do it too.
That's so cool.
So, I mean, I don't want to ask you your long term plan, but just from a year from now, because it could change long term. You never know. But
Yeah.
just a year from now, where do you see yourself being with ESPN or just in general?
I mean, it's so hard because every experience that I get here makes me love what I do day in and day out so much more. And, I do have those long-term goals and long-term plans for myself. And I don't want to speak them too hard into existence because I don't know realistically what the timeline looks like. I think the next year for me looks a whole lot of getting really good at where I'm at right now and getting really, really good at everything that I'm doing right here, right now, and being present in everything that I do day in and day out. This next NFL season is going to be quite the challenge. I've only been with this company for 7 months now, and I'm heading into an NFL season, and I'm going to be producing elements for two of the biggest shows that ESPN has to offer. So I think, talk to me after the NFL season because it's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be a real crazy few months, but I'm excited. I'm really excited for it. And working in football is something obviously that I love to do, and it's something I've always wanted to do. So maybe this next year will kind of push me even further down that I want to work in football. If I'm going to work in sports, I'm going to work in football, whether it's college or NFL. But I really wish I had the answer to where I'm going to be a year from now. But at the same time, I've never been more comfortable with not knowing where I'm going to be a year from now because I've just adopted this mindset that you need to embrace this and that this is, get really good at this and the next thing will come. Once you get really good at where you're at now and you enjoy it and you understand that all of this isn't for nothing. Okay. Just because you might be a little bit further away from your long-term goal, all of this makes you better. And I think that is just the absolute mindset I'm in right now. So a year from now, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't even think I want to know. I think I want to just enjoy this day to day and just kind of ride it out and see where it takes me,
Yeah.
So-
I mean,
so
that's a
I-
good place to be, to kind of enjoy where you're at in the moment. Not
Yeah.
enough people
Living in the
really
moment.
do embrace
Yeah.
the present, the moment of now.
Yeah.
And just like, taking it day by day and harnessing your skills. Like you say, you're amongst so many great people at ESPN.
Yeah.
Like you're amongst the top people. Like the only way you can go is up. So,
Which is crazy.
for you to recognize that is a beautiful thing instead of having to put the pressure on yourself like, oh, I should be here and here, because then that kind of stunts your growth a little bit, in my opinion.
For sure.
Exactly.
I heard somebody told me that looking in the past brings depression, and
Yeah.
the future always brings anxiety. So that's why we
Yeah.
gotta focus on the present. Okay,
Yeah.
little rhyme for you, but I like that a
Absolutely. I
lot.
love it.
Yeah. So quick question for you. Could you hit on a couple of your favorite moments, whether
Yeah.
Besides
you were
interviewing me.
the one interviewing, whether you were the one
At
doing
least
the
no.
interviewing, or maybe you were the one behind the camera, maybe you were in a meeting, just some of your favorite moments in this profession.
Yeah, there's been a lot. I think any time at Temple I had was always a good time. There was a lot. We've seen a lot at Temple. A lot came out of that building. But I think, my first time in a press box at Lincoln Financial Field, I'm 19 years old, and I'm looking around me and I'm like, am I really here right now? Like, yeah, I'm not covering the Eagles down on that field, but I'm here right now. And it was just a very much a pinch me moment. And any pregame reports that I had that I've been able to do, doing like tailgate shoots out at Temple was awesome because the tailgates were so fun and the fans were so fun to interact with. I think those stick out to me as like the most fun times I had. The coolest moment I've had up here so far actually was that NBA draft, the features that I was telling you about that aired on ABC that night. Coolest moment was a lot of work goes into bringing these things to fruition, right? So you have to prepare yourself and getting to know these guys before you get to know them in the interview. So I was on the phone with like every AAU basketball coach in the state of Indiana at one point. I was like, there's no way that I could have called this many guys in this place right now, all for one out of the 50, prospects that we were dealing with. And one of the phone calls, eventually I had started talking to some parents of these players. And one of my favorite stories ever, the Wesley family, Blake Wesley, his parents had told me that he was in the marching band. And it was kind of like they thought it was like an afterthought, right? They were like, oh yeah, he's a really talented saxophone player. He's in the marching band in high school. And I was like, hold on, say that one more time. He was in the marching band in high school and he is this good of a basketball player. Like he's an athlete and he plays the sax. That's freaking cool. And we then decided to take it upon ourselves to get a saxophone for him and kind of surprise him in the interview while he's getting ready to go to the NBA draft. Like I think and also saxophone was the last thing on this dude's mind. And I'm sitting in that chair and I was like, so I heard that you're a musician. And he like, it kind of hit him and he was like, yeah, that happened, I was like, so if I had a saxophone for you right now to play, like, do you think you could play it for me? And he was like, yeah, and then I think it like actually hit him like, oh God, they have a saxophone and they want me to play it right now.
Right.
And here he come walking this saxophone out around the camera, and he was like, "Oh my goodness, he was such a good sport about it. He played saxophone for us. He didn't miss a beat. He was right back where he was in high school." And I think it was one of those moments because you think to me this entire project was so daunting at first. Like it's a lot of pressure, right? You have 50 guys that you need to do your research on, and luckily I was with two really other talented producers who have done this before and who kind of know the run of the way. But I was like so looking forward to this lighthearted, like super fun moment, and it was like so cool to just be like, here's a saxophone, have fun. And he was just so bought into it. And then just seeing like Twitter afterwards, after this airs on draft night, like he gets drafted and everybody's like, oh my God, Blake Wesley plays the saxophone, like this is huge, like this is so cool. So that was a lot of fun. The backstory behind that was so
a name like that sound like a saxophone player. I'm just gonna be honest.
Oh yeah. Like,
you don't think about it till you find it out. But like now that you mention it, he sound like he cold on the instrument. So I can see that.
And I got another question, just a lighthearted question. If you could interview someone past and present, who would it be, and why?
That's a good question. That's a really, really good question because I feel like there are like a ton of names I could throw out right here. But in naming any of them, I think the biggest thing for me is like sometimes with athletes, their personality is being an athlete, right? Like there's not much to them, especially like at a younger age, because they are just so invested in their craft and like that's fine. Like that's cool. Be a great athlete. But when you come across like that unicorn who has like just as much of a personality as they do an athletic talent and ability, it's like it's the best thing ever. So like if I had to think of like certain names right now, of course it's gonna be me like rooted in my Philly sports, but like Allen Iverson, like that dude's personality, like if I had him and a microphone in one room, I feel like it would be great. I feel like it'd be so much fun. And then like Tyrese Maxey also, like quiet kid, but I feel like if you got him going, like he could give you some really good content. And I think like It's always, for me, it's about the personality that is behind the athlete, because they all have it in them. And it's whether they want to show it to the media and show it to whoever's interviewing them. Like to me though, it's always that personality. So I can't give you like one certain name, but like for me, yeah, like those two are the first two, oddly enough, that came to mind. Yeah. Good question. I'm going to think about that a little bit more.
Now, as we begin to wrap up, do you have any? We usually do a 15-second takeaway, but for you, we're not going to do no time limit. Do you have any advice? Because you gave some great advice in the beginning of the show. Do you have anything else you'd like to add for the audience out there that is interested in getting into sports media, like, someone younger than you, or just in general, that's something that adults can take away about your perseverance, your grit, and even just embracing the moment?
Yeah, I think it's that point that you just made right there, embracing the moment. There's a difference between comfort and complacency and embracing the moment, right? You never want to find yourself and say, man, I'm doing this over and over each day. Like I'm bringing home money. I'm getting work done. I'm being productive. You want to take that and shift your mindset to, okay, I'm getting good at this. I'm getting even better at this day in and day out. Where do I go from here? And just complacency is killer. Never really get locked into that mindset that just because, you're doing something, do it with a purpose and do it with an intention of what comes next. Life is too short to sit in one spot and be happy there and content and just kind of expect things to come to you. You have to get after that. And in that, I think my biggest piece of advice out of all of this is the whole linear concept. This is not linear. If you want to pursue a career in sports media, it is not linear at all. Every, turn that you make off a road, you'll find your way back on, right? The people that you meet along the way, the experiences you have along the way, the skill sets you build and develop along the way, nothing, goes to waste. None of that is for nothing. So I think that is like my two biggest things is like embrace the present, don't get complacent, and just remind yourself that there is no clear-cut way. There is no linear path. Everyone's path looks different. And that's like really it. That's what gets me through each and every day. And I think that is something that I wish someone would have told me when I was in high school, when I was in middle school, when I was, in college and freaking out over what I was going to do the next week and the next month. And when graduation came, like, I wish somebody would just look at me and say, hey, you don't have to do this. You do what you want to do, and you figure out how that's going to get you to the next point and keep you moving forward towards that goal.
Yeah, I echo all that. Bryce, you got anything to add?
I'm like deep breath. Like, whoa.
Do I have anything to add? I mean, that was so good. I mean, aside from me being hot, I look like a honey bun right now. I ain't gonna lie. I look like I'm so hot in here. I'm so hot in here. For the podcast, I like to keep everything off, like no AC going, you know what I'm saying, just for the background noise. But man, I'm hot. But aside from that, but seriously, like one of our friends in this project, if you go to the website, look at the About Us tab, you'll see John Harris. So John actually has sent us something a couple of days ago, and it hit home for me. It also made me think about some of the stuff Brooklyn was just talking about. Just in 10 years from now, one of the things that you're not going to worry about yourself 10 years from now, whether you're 15 years old or whether you're 25 like me, like when I'm 35, I'm not going to worry about, what I ate today or what I chose to do yesterday, right? But the things that I will be happy I did is take those risks, right? Whether I won or failed, whether it was a success or I fell short, I will be happy if I'm 35 and I can look back and say, at least I tried. I can be that person, or I could be the person that I'm 35 and I look back and say, I wish I just went ahead and took that risk. Because if you're at 25 saying it's too late, I can't get something started. Guess what you're going to say at 35? It's too late. I can't get it started. So you might as well get it started at 25. So I guess that's my message. And then also you got to remember, I'm just going to translate what Brooklyn said, because we got a specific climbers saying. It's literally what you said. But guys, like, always remember, success is at the top of the mountain. You cannot wait for it to roll down and come to you. It's not going to go there. You have to climb up and go get it, okay? And like she said, it's not going to be linear. You know what I'm saying? The mountain looks like this, okay? You got to find your way up. But once you get to the top, that's where the success is. It'll never roll down, ever. You can even be at this part. You can even have this much left. It ain't rolling down. You got to keep climbing, all right, till you get to the top. So that's all I got.
Yeah, great message from both of you. Brooklyn, thank you so much for joining the podcast. It was truly a pleasure. For all the audience out there,
Thank you.
Make sure y'all remember her name because you will see her around a lot for a long time.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment. You know, I just, you know, I appreciate all the support that we get, and just continue to climb. We'll see y'all next week.
Hold on, Joe. What song should we play like right here?
Where the love at?
Again, we gonna double up. All right, here it go. All right, appreciate
Yeah.
y'all. Peace.
Just glad we found our purpose. I just hope that when it's finished, we can say that it was worth it. Where the love at? All that petty hating, we above that. AC steady climbing, yeah, we love that. Every loss we took, we made a comeback.